Dolph, is that you? Hey, what's up, guys? Ken here from the Retro Toys Escapades channel, Malaysia. Thanks for joining me today. We got some new updates to talk about here. First of all, I just want to give a special shout out to username Evil Villain on Instagram. He's always helping out by sending me updates, photos, stuff that's happening. Sometimes I forget that it's MOTU's Day already. Yeah, I'm literally working on like a video project, and suddenly these updates are coming in. Helps to send me some photos here. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate everybody that sends me stuff on Instagram or DMs me stuff. Tells me stuff that's happening. So I can put videos up on it, talk about it, and discuss it with you guys. These images here are freaking fantastic. It's like exactly what I had imagined in my mind when they said that Dolph Lundgren was coming down to SDCC. He was going to be at the panel, and I kind of thought to myself, shit, it's like the 40th anniversary. It's also the 35th anniversary of the 1987 live action MOTU movie. So are they going to have like a special update about it because of the fact that they got Dolph Lundgren down there? Well, they didn't update us at SDCC, but now they're dropping the updates. That's for damn sure. Two sensational action figure updates were shared with us as part of the latest MOTU's Day update. First up, we've got He-Man, heroic defender of Eternia, and followed up by Skeletor, evil tyrant of Eternia. So where there's a heroic defender, there must also be an evil tyrant. Now, when it comes to action figures that were based off the original live-action 1987 Masters of the Universe movie, it seems like there were always one form of complication or the other. Okay, I can't put my finger on it, right? But for some reason, you could never get action figures of He-Man and Skeletor that looked like He-Man and Skeletor from the movie. You just couldn't. Okay, they didn't exist. And you had action figures of guys like Blade. Okay, pretty awesome. Sorod, definitely awesome. And you had Gwildor. Okay, I mean, probably the lamest hero, right? But somehow he was represented as an action figure. And these were the three action figures that were out since the vintage era. And there was a re-released He-Man figure. I remember this, you can probably look it up online as well. There was a re-released He-Man figure that had the blister that said, motion picture on it. Or maybe it was Masters of the Motion Picture or from the motion picture, okay? But it was definitely repackaged as a movie card, but it was the same generic He-Man figure from 1982. Nothing wrong with that. These days, we all want that, 1982 He-Man back, okay? But back then in the 80s, he was probably overplayed at the time. So as a fan of the franchise, you were looking for specific representations of the He-Man Skeletor that you saw in the movie. Well, you just couldn't get them for whatever reasons. And I always thought that, basically even as a kid, I kind of felt that, maybe there was a problem there. Like, maybe they just couldn't get certain approvals in place. I don't know. It did strike me as weird though, because Mattel owns these characters, but perhaps not their specific representations in the movie, because those characters probably, because they were reworked for the movie, right? Whereas, when you got new characters like, guys like Sorod and Blade and stuff like that, those were probably owned by Mattel. Okay, Mattel created those characters, but the characters that were represented in the movie as played by those actors, they had specific looks that maybe the studio owned. I'm not really sure about that. All I know is just that we just didn't get those action figures. Okay, scope this out. My copy of the official comic book adaptation of the 1987 movie. Now, like I said, even as a kid, I suspected that there were maybe some approval issues here at place. I, in fact, read the comic book like way before I even saw the movie. I don't think the movie even played here on screens in Malaysia. I'm not really sure. But back in the day, not everything that played in America actually made it down to cinemas here. But I did watch the movie like months later on VHS. And yeah, I mean, it was what it was at the time. But the fact of the matter is that I read the comic book first, and the comic book has entirely different sequences, and in fact doesn't even use any of the representations of He-Man and Skeletor. If you look closely here, He-Man and Skeletor are depicted exactly as per their cartoon appearances, or maybe even their original action figure appearances, not as how they appear in the movie. Not even Man-at-Arms and Tila here at the side here, they're also following their cartoon depictions. But then we get to characters like Gwildor. Gwildor right here looks exactly like how he appears in the movie. And also these other guys here, the bounty hunters we see here like Karg, Blade, and even Beastman. For some strange reason, Beastman is an original Filmation character. Okay, he's been around since any of these other older guys, but he is able to be depicted as how he appeared in the movie, which kind of made him look a little bit more like Grislaw, okay? Not so much Beastman. But yeah, you see, so the whole thing was actually something a bit confusing. It was like a merger between two different worlds, the motion picture world and the cartoon. I don't know what to make of it. But by the way, I did review this comic book on the channel like years ago when the channel was first starting out. Do check it out if you have the time. Do read the comic book as well. It's got a lot of new sequences and an entirely reworked final battle scene between He-Man and Skeletor, which I think is pretty great. In the official press release announcement, Mattel did say that these were figures that were inspired by the 1987 film, so that could be interpreted as maybe just being roughly or loosely based off the film appearance, but not exactly intended to be spot on, because that is definitely not Dolph Lundgren's head. You can even from a distance make it out that it's totally somebody different. Okay, some other actor from the 80s. Okay, it looks like somebody that you saw on TV in the 80s, but it's not Dolph Lundgren, that's for damn sure. But it is a reasonably good portrait of He-Man, a He-Man that you probably even see like in a line like classics or something like that. Okay, so you can accept this as being a He-Man character, but it's definitely got everything else on. Mattel also said that the figures will come with authentic movie style accessories, and you can see that everything here but the figure is pretty much very true to the movie appearance. Now, let's not also forget that a couple of years ago, Super 7 released this excellent line of 4 figures that were based off the 1987 movie. But even then, they couldn't exactly tie it into the movie. They couldn't call it like, figures based off the motion picture. They call it the William Stout collection. Back in the day, I was like, William Stout, who? Okay, because, me being a MOTU fan and everything, but I may not exactly remember everything that goes on behind the scenes. But it turns out that William Stout is, in fact, the original production designer for all of the characters here that you see represented in the movie, and the wardrobe and all that stuff. So this was based off his original designs. I would say that these figures look excellent. The depictions of He-Man and Skeletor here are great. Again, He-Man here doesn't quite look like the Dolph Lundgren He-Man, though I would say that he does appear to be closer in appearance than what we're seeing with this new Masterverse release that's coming out. But either way, we've had these figures out there in the market, but like I said, there's just something there, right, that just prevents them from being like officially movie related, and somehow even Karg, okay, for some reason. What's the deal there with Karg? Okay, I thought Karg was like an original character, created just like Sorod and Blade. For some reason, he's never been allowed to mix together with the other guys, okay, as part of the official movie line. Now, there is a lot to be excited about when it comes to the announcement of these new movie figures. It seems that there's no restrictions, thankfully, when it comes to the wardrobe or the accessories, because we're getting a great-looking new movie-inspired power sword. I love the look of this thing. We definitely need more new power swords added into our Masterverse collection. Enough of the same sword, blade, and hilt, ways of making the blade look interesting, making it shiny, make it glossy. I don't know, okay, but this new power sword looks fantastic, all right? And I have to say that the shoulder pads, the armor looks great. It reminds me of some of the stuff that McFarlane Toys was doing back in the day, like, the Spawn Samurai Wars, the detailing that's on the pads there, and all the grit and the wash that they used. It looks fantastic. I'm less a fan of the basic Masterverse body that they used here for He-Man. He kind of looks just scrawny. Okay, what the hell? All right. However, I've been sucked in by the 40th anniversary He-Man sculpt. Okay, the body that they got on him for that one is fantastic. I wonder if you can actually swap out all these armor bits and just put it on that figure instead. I guess we'll have to see. Now, I'm less certain as to why the face sculpt doesn't exactly resemble that of Dolph Lundgren's. They could definitely explore that, I suppose, unless there are still some licensing deals that are not confirmed, some issues that are still pending. Because Dolph Lundgren definitely, I don't think has a problem signing off his likeness. There's tons of, Rocky IV, Ivan Drago figures out there in the market, right? And I personally would love to see a 1989 Dolph Lundgren Punisher action figure. But yeah, talking about that, it's like, the face sculpt here is, like I said, okay. It kind of like looks like one of those figures that you get, back in the day with classics and stuff like that. So it's not too off-putting. Again, we've not seen him directly head on, okay? And these may or may not be final, but I suspect they're close to final. But, we've not exactly seen him head on, just from the side here like this. He could look a whole lot better when he's just staring at us directly. Now, the rest of the accessories that he comes with looks fantastic as well. He's got a whole bunch of stuff here. The cloth fabric cape, excellent, okay? It's just so classy. Thank you, right? And, he's got what appears to be a gigantic sword holder, right? That's just like dangling all the way down, okay, dangling, all the way down from the back there, and it just looks amazing. We've not really seen it up close, no images of this thing from the back there. I'm sure we'll see it later, but already you can see that this thing is massive. Okay, he's got a whole bunch of daggers, one at the hip there, what appears to be one at the ankle. He's got the blaster pistol in the holster. Now that is just movie accurate, because he did use the blaster pistol to blast away the bad guys. Okay, remember that in the film. The thought of He-Man using a pistol, well, it's not really that traditional a weapon for him to hold on to, but it is great to have the opportunity to now have him posed with a pistol from the film. Overall, I think this package looks fantastic. I think that all this stuff right here, if you're going to put it into like a standard package, man, that's going to be amazing. I don't think that this is going to be a deluxe set, but even if it was, somehow they put this into a deluxe set. Maybe they had even more accessories, like an alternate head or something like that we've not seen before. Maybe the alternate head is going to be Dolph Lundgren's head. I don't know, but even if it was a deluxe set, I'm all in. Okay, I'm all in for this thing. I'm telling you right now, guys. The Skeletor movie figure is just soaked with such rich detailing. I mean, just look at this guy. Now, to be honest, I can't say I've always really been a fan of the 1987 He-Man depiction in the film because it's like the character look and the design. It seems very much Conan inspired. It doesn't really strike me as He-Man immediately, but it is an official look. I do want to own it as an action figure. It is very nostalgic to me, that's for damn sure. But when it comes to the movie Skeletor, I gotta be honest, it was just an instant win for me. Everything about it just completely works. I never questioned the fact that this could not be Skeletor because it just looked like a very realistic depiction of the cartoon version of him, but brought into a real life setting, or as real life as a fantasy world could be. But you know how it is, right? Sometimes, like, when you get the first X-Men movie, you really couldn't imagine them running around with all those colorful outfits. They gave them all these really black, moody colors, and it kind of worked, it kind of made them look like government operatives or something like that. In the same case here for Skeletor, I don't really think that he would have worked with that, really bright blue skin and all those colorful accessories. Sometimes, sometimes he had the Dragon Blaster purple red dragon on his back, kind of made him look like a rainbow. But this one here is just, it's very moody, very dark colors. He's kind of like a ruler, a very elegant ruler, but a ruler of darkness. You know what I'm saying? So, when I saw this look, the robes and all the detailing, it just felt like, it was a very inspired touch. The movie had a lot of things that didn't work for it, but when it came to the set design, the production aspects of it, the costumes especially, I think that that's where it really shined. Now, this Masterverse movie Skeletor figure is just a fantastic opportunity for a lot of people to own a sculpt of this movie design Skeletor. A lot of people missed out on the Super 7 Dark Despot release, the one that was part of the William Stout collection. It was out only at hobby stores, limited quantities, and now I think the prices on that has just been jacked up online. It's pretty hard to find. So this is a great opportunity to own this figure, all right? To own this representation of Skeletor from the movie. That's what I want. Everything I'm seeing here in this photo looks fantastic. I love that freaking havoc stuff. All the detailing on his outfit. Fabric cape again, hell yeah. Also, I'm not really sure if this figure is going to come with any more accessories or what else is he going to come with. I don't think that in this particular look he's got a lot. Maybe they may throw in a sword or two, or maybe an alternate head. Okay, again, maybe an alternate head. But this is just looking really nice. I think that this figure here, and together with the He-Man figure that they put out there also at the announcement, this is just a real gift to the fans. Now here's the weird thing. This movie Skeletor figure looks a whole lot just like his counterpart in the film. That is unmistakably the Frank Langella face of Skeletor that you saw in the movie. And I don't really know if there was like any likeness rights tied up with this particular figure or this representation. If it was just a makeup deal, just to create a skull face, was there a likeness rights issue there? Or was it just for the human heads like Dolph Lundgren? But from what I'm looking at here, this looks exactly, pretty much as good as Masterverse sculpting can be, without being like something like Hot Toys level or anything like that. This looks pretty much it. Okay, so if you had this figure, I'd say you'd had probably one of the best ever representations of that movie Skeletor figure. What do you guys think? All right, I mean, this looks fantastic to me. And I think that maybe they may have probably done some slight changes to his features, probably to differentiate it a little bit more from the film, if that was still an issue. But overall, I'd say that this is just some utterly amazing work. Yeah. Now, for reasons unknown even to me, I guess, I don't have any of the figures from the Super 7 William Stout MOTU collection. But here are some of the figures that I do have that are inspired by the live-action film, starting out with one of my favorites. This was the Matty Collector Mattel Classics Sorod action figure. One of my absolute favorite characters from the film. The character that I was most looking forward to seeing, but the first to die. And then we have Blade. Okay, Blade also. Well, in the movie, he was just like a, generic swordsman type character. But the action figure is fantastic. Look at all the detailing on this thing. The action figure is, in fact, a better representation of the character than the live action version was in the movie, even though that was the first time that we actually saw him, okay, as a character. Okay, on the back of the card here, Now, the cross-sell features Gul'Dor, Sorot, and Blade, the same three characters that were also the movie-based characters in the vintage toy line, but it also adds the original Skeletor, He-Man, and Beastman. I thought this was interesting because Super 7 never did the movie-based versions of these characters at this point, and having them here is kind of like a visual clue because they were key characters in the movie. Now, while the Masterverse announcement is fantastic, I personally, of course, as you can imagine, would want to see these movie-based figures represented in the Origins line and scale. Now, these are the three vintage figures for Sorot, Gul'Dor, and Blade. Various stages of completion. Sorot's missing the laser pistol. Blade doesn't have his swords and the loincloth. How did I just know that was going to happen? I wonder if I should just edit out these bloopers, okay? You know what? I'll just leave them in. Yeah, so Blade's missing his two swords plus the loincloth. Now, Gul'Dor here is the only vintage movie-based figure I have that's complete, right? Figures, right? The lamest character, and that's the only one that I have complete. What are you going to do? Okay, since we got these figures out here, might as well just check them out again for a bit. The interesting thing about Blade is that he's got a really forceful waist spring action. Check this out. Most of the MOTU figures, the vintage ones, had this feature, but the one on Blade is really good, okay? And he's also got spring-loaded arms. Both the left and right arms are spring-loaded. Check this out, okay? It's really cool, and I wonder how hard was it to incorporate this feature into the modern Origins figures like Jitsu and Fisto, which were supposed to have the spring-loaded arms. Okay, how hard was it to have those features there? I have reviewed the vintage Sorot figure on the channel some years back. Go check that video out if you haven't already. But this thing has a very cool spark shooting action. Let's check it out again. It still works after all of these years. I've not tried it in a bit, so let's see how it goes. Okay, watch this thing rip. All right, watch those sparks fly, man. It's just freaking awesome. All right, get real close to the camera here. Yeah, check this out, man. Check this out. I love it. All right, this is just ingenious, right? Having this feature incorporated into a vintage toy like all the way back then. Man, awesome. Now, as part of the reveals that came out, we also got treated to some very cool packaging box artwork of the new movie figures. Now, these were taken directly from the final battle scene between He-Man and Skeletor. The artwork is done by the amazing Ilmono Donahue. On one end, you've got He-Man just charging into battle, and on the other end, you've got the evil Skeletor meeting him head on. Now, these two are separate images on both packaging boxes for both the movie He-Man and Skeletor. But you guessed it, guys. These two images do combine to form one single interlocking image. I mean, check this out. This is just freaking amazing. All right. This year alone, we've seen interlocked cardback artwork pieces for both the Flying Fist He-Man and the Terracotta Skeletor, but now we're seeing more of these apparently as well. Maybe this is going to be the way of the future. You got to collect the whole set to get one massive interlocking image. But either way, this shot right here, this portrait is done by Ilmono Donahue, is just freaking unbelievable. I love to have this thing as an art print. Now, what is it about the live-action Masters of the Universe movie that I feel such an attachment towards? Is it just nostalgia? I mean, when people out there say that it's a poorly made movie, I gotta admit, well, they do have a point, but then again, at the same time, they could also be missing the point. Okay, when I watched it as a kid, I did think that was really underwhelming. It was well below expectations. I thought it was really cheaply made. But then again, as an adult, I look back on it, I realized that they had a ton of restrictions putting out a fantasy level action adventure film like this on the screen. And back then, during those early days of the 80s, fantasy movies were not really a thing. You had them like few and far between. You had stuff like Conan, Lady Hawk, Krull, Dragon Slayer. Remember those movies? Just a few of them, all right? And if you look back at those movies, they all had budgetary restrictions. The special effects were not really that great. But one thing that all had in common was that the production and the set designs, the costumes were all amazing. That's something that Masters of the Universe has as well. And I think that in the merchandise that we've seen since then, that's where the elements of the movie are really able to shine, okay, in the merchandise that comes out, especially in these action figures that we're seeing here now. Okay, guys, so that's the video. Let me know what you thought of it. Let me know what you think of these He-Man and Skeletor movie-based action figures. If you're excited for them, me personally, I want to see this line expand into all of the characters that we saw in the movie. Well, maybe not the human characters, although a James Tolkien character would be fantastic, okay? But I personally would really want to see that freaking gigantic air chariot thing that Skeletor was riding in the movie. When they attacked the city, when they came to Earth for the first time. Man, if that thing was ever actually made into an action figure or vehicle, that would be the shit right there, okay? I would be totally kickstarted, okay? Do whatever you need to, all right? I mean, I'll be on board for that. So, guys, I'll catch you guys again real soon with more content here, and take care out there.